Hey, let's do something special for Grandpa's birthday. Great idea! Let's make his favorite beef stew and celebrate together. I smiled warmly, agreeing with my grandson Adrian's suggestion. Over the next few days, in preparation for my husband Henry's birthday next week, Adrian was learning how to make beef stew under my guidance. Adrian, who had never really cooked before, held the knife clumsily, and I had to resist the urge to help him, but I continued to watch over him diligently. It's amazing how quickly children grow. In just a few days, Adrian could cut the ingredients to the right size with a knife. Finally, the long-awaited day of Henry's birthday arrived. After spending a long time cooking, I asked Henry to taste the stew, and he took a bite with a happy expression. He tilted his head slightly. Then suddenly stood up with the stew and headed to the bathroom. I frowned, puzzled, as I watched his retreating back. After a while, when Henry returned, I said with a slightly irritated tone, "Henry, we spent 5 hours making that beef stew. Why did you pour it down the sink?" My words came out a bit petulantly, but I was genuinely upset. Even if he was dissatisfied with the taste, was there really a need to throw it away? I could have adjusted the flavor, there had to be a way to fix it. Henry looked at me in surprise. "Did you eat this, Julie?" "No, I haven't." Adrian quietly walked up to Henry and whispered in a very small voice, "Thank you, Grandpa." I was completely lost for words, when Henry smiled softly and gave a small bow. "My name is Julie, I'm 54 years old. I live with my kind but slightly timid husband, Henry, and a kitten we recently adopted. I run a local beauty salon inherited from my parents. Thanks to its prime location, the salon is thriving, supported by the local community. The salon also serves as our home. We use the first floor for the salon and live on the second floor. While I work, I sometimes feel bad for leaving the kitten in its cage all day due to the faint noises from upstairs. A few days after getting the kitten, I decided to let it roam freely in the living room. Whenever I went upstairs to check on it between appointments, I was always surprised by its unexpected behaviors, like knocking over vases or chewing on clothes. As a hairdresser, I pride myself on always greeting customers with a smile and meeting their hair needs with my skills. This has led to my salon becoming well known through word of mouth, attracting new customers. Of course, I regularly attend seminars and training to improve my skills as a hairstylist. While I focus on my work, I also cherish the time I spend with my family. Henry and I have been married without major conflicts, supporting and understanding each other throughout our marriage. Perhaps because Henry is 2 years older, I tend to rely on him quite a bit. Although I'm confident in my hairdressing skills, I struggle with managing inventory, like shampoo, and have left that up to Henry. He handles appointments more efficiently, and his efforts have enabled online booking, which has helped attract new clients. Henry is very kind and timid. When I fell in love with a kitten at the pet shop and begged to keep it, he reluctantly agreed. Even though he's not fond of animals. I'm not really good with animals. He keeps his distance from the kitten. But since it's now part of the family, I figured he would eventually grow to love it. I spontaneously named the kitten Anna. In the neighborhood, my son, now named Tom, his wife Sophia, and their son Adrian live happily together. Adrian is my treasure. The young boy is very attached to me, often pleading, "I want to spend more time with Grandma." This has sometimes made my relationship with Sophia challenging. Adrian asks me for a haircut once a month. When I suggested, "How about asking Mom to cut it for you?" Adrian replied with an innocent smile, loud enough for nearby Sophia to hear, "Because Grandma is better at it." Sophia smiled too, but her eyes were not laughing. After finishing Adrian's haircut, she seemed somewhat dissatisfied and murmured, "It's indeed good. I just wanted to enjoy my time with my adorable grandson, but if it meant hurting my daughter-in-law's pride, I thought I'd rather not cut Adrian's hair anymore." However, Adrian became even more attached to me, wanting to see me more. Sophia and Tom, both working busy jobs, likely contributed to the increased days I took care of Adrian. I temporarily closed my salon to cherish my moments with Adrian, taking him for walks and to the park. Yet, I was concerned about Sophia's attitude in my heart. Though she never said it out loud, I could tell she was clearly displeased whenever Adrian and I did something together. One day, I decided to address the issue with Sophia directly. "Sophia, since we're both hairstylists, there might be a sort of rivalry, right? But we're family, so how about we try to get along better?" Sophia looked surprised at first, but then smiled and said, "I'll think about it. Getting along with Julie might be good for Tom and Adrian." I was relieved by Sophia's words. I still don't know what will happen between Sophia and me in the future, but I resolved to continue valuing our family bond. Hoping for more moments of laughter and play with Adrian, I went on with my busy days. One day, Tom's family came to visit my house. Tom and Adrian were playing with Anna, our playful kitten, using a toy similar to a cat teaser. I was writing in the cat care diary I've kept since the day we brought Anna home, sitting beside them. Suddenly, I remembered next Sunday would be Henry's birthday and called Adrian over. "Hey, how about we do something special for Grandpa's birthday? Maybe we can throw a different kind of fun party." Adrian, a bit puzzled but with sparkling eyes, looked at me. "Great idea! Let's make Grandpa's favorite beef stew and celebrate with everyone." I smiled warmly, agreeing with Adrian's proposal. For the next few days, Adrian learned how to make beef stew under my guidance. I decided to let Adrian do all the work, like chopping and frying, while I just gave verbal instructions. Adrian, who had apparently never cooked before, held the knife awkwardly, making me want to intervene, but I kept watching over him. Children grow so fast, and in just a few days, Adrian could cut ingredients to a decent size with a knife. Finally, the much-awaited day of Henry's birthday arrived. I sent Henry out to go play somewhere until the evening, meanwhile inviting Tom's family over. I asked Adrian if he could handle making the stew, and Sophia, standing next to him, smiled and hugged his shoulders. Actually, he's been eating stew almost every day, getting really into making it. Today, he plans to cook it for a long time to bring out a deep flavor. "Oh, that's authentic." It takes a long time to keep stirring the pot to prevent burning, so I'll stand in the kitchen with Adrian. "Julie, could you handle the decorations and picking up the cake?" I nodded deeply, thinking it was a clear division of tasks. I expressed my gratitude with a smile and left the stew to Adrian and Sophia. While I went out for decorations and cake pickup, I returned to a house filled with the aroma of stew. It smelled delicious. Happy, I headed to the kitchen to find Adrian staring at the stew pot alone. I instantly felt something was off with Adrian's face. He looked tense, staring at the stew, and it seemed like tears were welling up in his eyes. "Adrian, what's wrong? Are you okay?" After hesitating and mumbling for a while, Adrian finally burst into tears. "Grandma, I messed up the beef stew." I was surprised, but placed my hand on Adrian's cheek. "It's okay, Adrian. Everyone messes up cooking sometimes. What's important is celebrating Grandpa's birthday with all our hearts." "But, Grandma, the stew probably tastes bad. I'm sorry. I want something else today." "What are you talking about? It might not be a failure. How about this? Let's have Grandpa taste it, and if it's good, we'll all eat. How's that?" Adrian looked on the verge of tears at my suggestion. What a sensitive child. But the stew didn't look burnt, and the ingredients were cut to the right size. What could be wrong with this stew? Well, if Henry tastes it, surely Adrian will be convinced. As the sky began to turn red, Henry came home. At the same time, Adrian and I had Henry sit down to explain what had happened. "So, if I taste it and it's good, we'll all eat it, right?" Henry took a bite of the stew with a happy expression. Then tilted his head slightly. Suddenly, he stood up with the stew and headed straight for the bathroom. I frowned in confusion as I watched his retreating back. After a while, when Henry came back, I said with a slightly irritated expression, "Henry, that stew took 5 hours to make. Why did you pour it down the sink?" I sounded a bit petulant, but I was genuinely angry. Regardless of whether he was dissatisfied with the taste, was there really a need to throw it away? We could have added more roux to adjust the flavor. There had to be a way to fix it. Henry looked at me in surprise. "Did you eat this, Julie?" "No, I haven't." Quietly, Adrian walked up to Henry and whispered in a really small voice, "Thank you, Grandpa." As I became thoroughly confused and fell silent, Henry made a gentle smile and nodded. "Sorry. It turns out the stew had nuts in it. Julie's allergic, so I thought I better be careful." Hearing that, my expression froze for a moment. I have a severe nut allergy and need to be particularly cautious with food. Adrian mentioned he messed up the stew, but I hadn't tasted it myself because of my allergy. I've always been extremely cautious about nuts, not eating anything unless I'm absolutely certain it doesn't contain nuts. It's become a habit, unconsciously being careful about food others have made, regardless of it being made by family. Usually, when Henry and I eat out, he checks for nuts, not exactly as a taster, but to ensure my safety. After a bad experience with incorrect information from a restaurant staff, he's always been the one to taste first if there's any uncertainty about nuts. My nut allergy is that serious. Known well by Tom and Sophia. With mixed feelings of surprise and anger, I said, "I've mentioned my nut allergy often, haven't I? Why were there nuts in it?" I wasn't really addressing anyone in particular, but Sophia, who was nearby, spoke up. Looking a bit flustered, she bowed slightly and said, "I'm sorry, Julie. Maybe Adrian accidentally added the nuts." "Adrian did?" "He loves nuts, so probably he didn't know about your allergy and added them," Sophia said gently, hugging Adrian's shoulder. It was news to me that Adrian liked nuts. I had never told him about my allergy, though I had mentioned that I dislike nuts, recalling a time we laughed about both of us not liking nuts. "But I told Adrian that I dislike nuts." "Julie? Adrian loves nuts. It can't be helped. It's good that it didn't turn into a major accident," Sophia said, leaving me staring at her, bewildered and surprised. Adrian was looking down. A mix of sadness and apology on his face. Confused by Adrian's reaction, I was trying to figure out what was happening. I might be missing some crucial facts. Sensing the uneasy atmosphere, Tom suggested, "Let's discuss this another day, shall we? After all, today is Henry's birthday. We wouldn't want to spoil the fun, right?" Tom said in a tone that seemed to treat everyone like children. Then Henry, stroking his chin, suggested, "Let's check the surveillance camera." Sophia, surprised, uttered, "What?" I didn't miss the way Sophia's face turned pale at Henry's mention of checking the camera we recently installed for the cat. I usually only turn it on while I'm working at the salon, but today I left it on by accident, Henry muttered to himself. "No, Henry, we'll make sure Adrian learns from his mistake about accidentally adding the nuts. There's no need to play back the camera. It's my way of apologizing for throwing away the stew that took hours to make. I at least want to see the effort Adrian put into cooking it." Henry said this with a gentle smile, but his eyes were not smiling at all. He took the camera set up for the cat and inserted it into the computer connected to the TV to start playback. From the camera mounted above the refrigerator, the scene of cooking in the kitchen was clearly displayed. This camera also has the capability to record audio, and the footage showed Sophia and Adrian talking while simmering the stew. Sophia, looking around restlessly, suggested, "Come on, if there's no food, let's just go out to eat." But Henry, ignoring her words, turned up the volume of the playback. Amid the static, Sophia's and Adrian's conversation could be heard. Sophia, in a rather commanding tone, was seen handing nuts to Adrian, urging him to hurry up. Adrian refused, shaking his head and pushing the nuts back towards Sophia's chest. Then, Sophia slapped Adrian across the cheek. Adrian fell to the ground, and in the silence that followed, Sophia was seen finally chopping the nuts on the cutting board. Humming a tune, she said, "I'll cook it long enough so that old lady won't notice," as she continued to crush the nuts into a finer powder with an evil smirk. Adrian, with tears in his voice, pleaded, "Let's stop. Grandma might suffer," but Sophia looked down at him with a very cold expression. "If you tell anyone, Mommy will get arrested. You okay with that?" "I don't want that." "It's okay. I just want to play a little trick on Julie. It's our secret," Sophia whispered, winking and pointing her index finger to her lips, as she proceeded to add the crushed nuts to the stew pot. Fully aware of the severe allergic reaction I could have. Henry and I were deeply shocked as we watched, until Tom, sounding a bit frightened, asked, "Why would you do something like this?" Realizing everything was exposed, Sophia gave up on pretending and crossed her arms with a pout, saying, "Julie has it so good. She owns her salon, works freely, and never struggles with conversation since it's all regular customers." We exchanged looks, wondering what she was talking about. Sophia began to complain about her job at the salon, mentioning the long hours of standing, insufficient breaks, and how the store's policy of prioritizing customers' appointments over staff holidays meant she couldn't take proper paid leave. Despite that, Julie's salon frequently closes for her to go for walks or shopping with Adrian. At first, I was grateful, but then it just made me increasingly angry. So you tampered with the stew by adding nuts, just to cause Julie distress. And you even cooked it for 5 hours to ensure the taste wouldn't be detected. Even Henry, usually quiet and gentle, began to speak more sternly. If I had ingested the nuts, a small amount might just cause swelling in my mouth or lips, but eating too much could lead to anaphylaxis. Having been cautious about my allergies since childhood, I've never had severe symptoms, but in hindsight, it seems Henry was more concerned about my diet than I was. So, you were planning to blame Adrian if I ate the stew and ended up in danger, weren't you, Sophia? Henry's calm explanation made everyone aware of the gravity of Sophia's actions. Tom was the first to deeply apologize to me, shouting at Sophia to do the same. However, Henry, without changing his expression, took out his phone and quietly said, "I'm calling the police." The moment the word police was mentioned, Sophia's face turned pale, her eyes widening in shock. The disbelief of just for putting nuts in the stew was written all over her face. Tom tried to stop Henry, but Henry, usually seen with a gentle smile, sternly refused. This is a crime that could have led to a serious accident. I want the police to handle it appropriately. After calling the police, I held Adrian for a while, comforting him as he seemed to regret not resisting more. Adrian's small body was trembling. In such moments, not knowing what to say, all I could do was continue to hold my grandson close. Turning to Sophia, who still seemed unconvinced, I began. You know, what saddens me the most isn't the danger I was put in, but the fact you tried to blame a child, Adrian, and attempted to destroy the life we have as a family. Sophia remained silent, staring off into the distance. Now exposed, she looked at me with eyes that had resigned to her fate, cold and defeated. All this fuss about allergies. It's overblown. Nuts are subtly included in various dishes. Do we have to be so cautious about nuts in everything we make here? Yes, it's not an exaggeration. I've been cautious about what I eat since I was a child. How tedious. It's just a rash or something minor, right? As Sophia reapplied her lipstick, Anna, the kitten, came from the next room. And suddenly started climbing up her dress towards her neck, claws out. What's this? Sophia screamed in pain from Anna's tiny claws, standing still without resistance. It seemed Anna was intrigued by her necklace. As Anna reached her neck, clinging desperately to Sophia, she sneezed loudly. Anna, shocked but determined not to be shaken off, dug her claws in further. The sneezing continued, and Sophia, struggling to breathe, tried to peel Anna off, but only stretched her clothes as Anna's claws were tangled. When Tom picked Anna up, Sophia sat down, coughing violently. Tears in her eyes, she held her chest, trying to catch her breath, while looking at Anna. I rubbed her back gently and asked, "Are you okay?" She nodded after taking a few deep breaths. I think it's a cat allergy. It's similar to hay fever symptoms, but have you ever experienced this before? Sophia shook her head slightly, covering her nose as she left the room. After washing her face in the bathroom, she returned, glaring at Anna while drying her face with a towel. Henry picked up Anna, gently stroking her head. I realized I had never seen Henry holding Anna before. Despite her small and cute appearance, Henry seemed afraid of Anna, but now he held her close to his chest as if she were a precious baby. Allergies can vary in severity, but for the person affected, it can be very painful and difficult. Even if it was a light-hearted decision to add nuts, I want you to understand the gravity of your actions. Sophia continued to cough occasionally. Soon, 2 police officers arrived at our home to mediate the situation. The discussion turned to what actions I sought from Sophia, knowing that adding nuts to the stew when aware of an allergy could constitute a specific crime. Sophia is an important part of my family, being my son's wife. I didn't want to escalate things unnecessarily but expressed a sincere desire for her to reflect on her actions properly. The senior officer spoke very calmly, and Sophia, looking worn out, began to reveal her actions and feelings up to now. It became clear that she had been trying to harm me through Adrian and had been harsh towards him when he resisted. For Tom, hearing this was a shocking revelation, and a few months after the incident, he initiated a divorce. Tom said wistfully, "I dreamed of running a salon together like you and Dad," which deeply moved me. A year has passed since then. I chose not to pursue criminal charges or a lawsuit regarding the nuts in the stew. However, word spread quickly, and Sophia could no longer live in the neighborhood, resorting to moving back in with her parents. I hold no resentment or anger towards Sophia, Rather, I worry about her and occasionally reach out via text, asking if she's okay or needs anything, despite it possibly being seen as meddling. For months, there was no response until one day, I received a simple message from her saying, "I'm sorry." She seems to be reflecting and trying to grow from this experience, and I truly want to forgive her. Since then, my husband and I have welcomed Tom and Adrian to live with us in this house. Henry has become even more vigilant about what I eat since the beef stew nuts incident, and I feel incredibly fortunate to have such a caring partner. We try to create many happy memories for Adrian, who went through a tough experience, by going out together. While I am grateful for my successful work life, I strive to further improve myself, holding even more confidence in my abilities. Anna has grown too big to be called a kitten anymore, stretching out under the table in the living room, asleep. Usually purring contentedly, Anna approaches me when I'm about to eat, sniffing the ingredients as if checking them out, then walks away after a while. I don't think there's a deeper meaning to Anna's actions, but it makes me feel as though I'm protected by many beings around me, filling me with a sense of happiness today as well.